So a couple of months ago, a game that I've been playing on and off ever since it was in its alpha period got a re-release in the form of a 2.0 update. For those of you who can't or haven't read the title of the video yet, this game is of course Blizzard's very own Heroes of the Storm. Now, I've had some split opinions on this game ever since the beginning, but boy oh boy does this rebranding deserve its own video. So let's get into it. I'm going to start this off by saying, if you've already watched episode 167 of the Co-optional podcast and heard Jesse Cox's rant about this topic, then you've got a fairly good idea of what my opinion is already. I am way in the Cox's corner on this one. There are so many things that they should do with HOTS that they simply don't seem to be interested in doing. They threw around the phrase 2.0, something I assume most gamers would associate with major mechanical changes to gameplay and balance, but what we got instead was microtransactions and loot crates. To put it plainly, we didn't get Heroes of the Storm 2.0, we got Heroes of the Storm Overwatch Edition. Now to be clear, the issue I take with all this sinks more into how they've marketed the whole ordeal. Like I said, as a gamer, I heard 2.0 and I took the branding to be a sign of significant changes to how the game works. Bug fixes, balance changes, reworked maps and characters, the whole shebang. When they had only announced the out-of-match leveling changes and the introduction of loot crates, I wasn't too fussed about it all. Hey, if I can finally get skins without having to drop real cash into the game, then great. I mean, at that point it was still a month away from release and I was sure that they would tell us more as it got closer to the release date. Boy was I mistaken. As the day of the update drew closer, I grew increasingly wary about the lack of any other news for changes to the game. When the update finally hit and nothing about the actual game was changed, it dawned upon me what they had done. This was a freaking PR stunt to try and convince Overwatch players to jump over to HOTS. Don't believe me? Check my evidence. 1. They introduced a bunch of aspects that Overwatch was known for, such as the loot crates and the sprays. 2. They released a well-known, and last I checked well-despised, Overwatch character Genji in Overwatch map Hanamura alongside the 2.0 update. 3. The Nexus 2.0 challenge rewards were limited to Overwatch-themed items with the exception of the Nexagon mount. The loot crates are debatable since they can give you anything, but they are still inherently a copy of the loot boxes from Overwatch. I mean, seriously, could they not have tried even a little to make HOTS stand on its own 2 feet? Okay, sure, the occasional cross-promotional event is fine. The original Nexus challenge at the end of 2016 was amazing. You got the new hero, which coincidentally was also an Overwatch character, a few items for Overwatch itself, several older heroes, plus a stim pack. Sure, you could call that a PR stunt to convince Overwatch players to jump into HOTS itself, but it wasn't anywhere near as blatant a cop-out as this 2.0 patch is. To me, this whole ordeal screams of Blizzard's lack of confidence in their own work. They see how their game, that they marketed as the casual MOBA, hasn't soared to the heights of Dota 2 and League of Legends, and thusly hasn't cemented itself as one of the big esports games they dearly wish it to be. They see its presumably tiny player base compared to Overwatch and think it's a failure. So they've thrown out the notion of actually making the game better, and instead decided to make it ride on the coattails of its little brother in the hopes that it gets popular by association. Something I can tell you from experience doesn't work. Just like everything else, HOTS has to draw an audience based on its own merits. Now clearly I don't think HOTS is an awful game itself. I wouldn't have spent the past 2 years playing it on and off if I did. It still has a lot of potential to be an absolutely great game. After all, unlike the vast majority of MOBAs that were developed since the rise of League of Legends, HOTS made it all the way through development, saw a full release, and still has a dedicated player base 2 years in. Most other games get cancelled during development, rip Dawngate you beautiful game, or are simply abandoned by their creators, a la Strife. There are a lot of better things Blizzard could have done when they decided to slap the big 2.0 label on the game. There are a lot of better things that they should have done. Slapping in a bunch of features, copy and paste it over, or inspired by Overwatch, all at once, not a step in the right direction. Especially if they want to get HOTS out of Overwatch's shadow. Okay, sure, you've made it easier to get in-game cosmetics, which is really helpful for those of us who can't afford or justify real money purchases for them. But beyond that, you've done very little to make the game more fun to play. Especially considering how terrible the new Hanamura map is, and how overpowered Genji still is 2 months later. Hell, Varian's been out since last November, and he still hasn't been properly balanced. That said, as a minor patch to the game, this update isn't that bad. Heroes require less experience to level up, and as a result, all hero levels were automatically adjusted to their new equivalent level when the patch came into effect, which is quite nice. Loot crates and shards, the HOTS version of Overwatch's credits, make it significantly easier and cheaper to get new cosmetic items. Extra voice lines are cool, though most in my opinion are pretty lame. Quite a few of the sprays look really nice, despite how pointless I consider them to be. I personally use the cute Nubarak one in all of my loadouts. The banners I'm indifferent to. They're kind of neat, but most of them, like the voice lines, are just kind of bland. My absolute favourite addition to this patch though is the character announcer packs. I'm not interested in most of the characters they made into announcer packs so far, but I look forward to seeing more of my favourites and mains getting their own set. I'll talk about skins, but they've been there from the beginning and as thus aren't really something added by this patch, and as a result, irrelevant for the most part. Sure, I could whine about how all of the colour variants of each skin have to be unlocked separately, but that's not exactly too far from how it was originally. Besides, since you can just buy skins with shards or get lucky with a loot crate, it's basically a non-issue. Want a skin of a specific colour? No worries, save up your shards or cross your fingers, easy as that. Ditto for mounts, really. Another thing to mention is gems. The buy this in-game currency with real currency so you can buy in-game content addition to the game. I honestly have no idea why they bothered to add this at all. They could have just allowed you to buy loot crates with real cash, like in Overwatch, and adjust the already existing prices on mounts and skins to fit. They probably made more work for themselves than they really needed to with this idea, but hey, I'm not fussed. It's not like I was spending money on the game to begin with. I believe everyone got 1,000 gems for free as part of the update too anyway, with another 100 bonus gems to be used for buying a 100 gem cost 20 hero pack promotion they did. I'm not sure if that was actually part of the 2.0 deal or not, but hey, 23 heroes isn't so bad. Mostly if you're new to the game or haven't bought many heroes so far though. I imagine a lot of long time or more serious players probably had, purchased most if not all of the heroes in the game by this point. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Heroes of the Storm Overwatch Edition, 2.0. A glorified, overhyped, circle jerk of a minor patch, which admittedly wouldn't have been a big deal if Blizzard hadn't tried to make it out to be this huge game-changing thing. I hate the way it was marketed, I hate the fact that Blizzard clearly doesn't have much faith in HOTS as its own game, and I hate the fact that they have done so little with the game that has so much promise. But otherwise, it's not a bad patch. After all that I think I need a drink. Care for a pint? No? Well, you're lost. Maybe I'll catch you on the Nexus, but until then, cheers.